Ladies and gentlemen, what we feared, what many dismissed as rumor, has now been officially confirmed. The Nigerian military has publicly acknowledged a coup plot, a plan to illegally overthrow the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is no longer social media speculation. This is no longer political propaganda. This is coming directly from the defense headquarters of Nigeria. According to an official statement signed by Samaila Uba, spokesperson of the defense headquarters, investigations into the alleged coup plot have been completed. The military confirmed that there were multiple officers involved in the coup. Investigations are completed and that files have been forwarded to superior military authority. The officers will be arraigned before military judicial panels. Trials will proceed under the Armed Forces Act. This means one thing, that the allegations were not baseless. Two, that the threat was real. Three, that the processes has moved from investigation to prosecution. The October 2025 arrest now makes sense. Recall that in October 2025, the Defense Headquarters announced the arrest of 16 officers for acts of indiscipline and breaches of service regulations. At the time, the public was told very little, no details, no clarity, no transparency. Now we understand why. Those arrests were not random. They were not routine disciplinary cases. They were part of a serious internal security operation tied to an alleged attempt to destabilize Nigerian state. This confirmation changes the political equation. It shows that Tinubu's government is not only facing political opposition, it is also managing institutional loyalty tests. The state is dealing with silent power struggles, not just loud protests. A coup plot does not emerge in isolation. It grows in discontent, in internal fractures, and in elite power rivalry. This is not just about soldiers. This is about power, control, and political stability in Nigeria. Let this be clear. Nigeria today is not Nigeria of 1966, 1975, or 1983. The military institution has changed greatly. The constitution is stronger, civil society is stronger, international scrutiny is stronger, economic independence is deeper. Any coup attempt is not just illegal, it is geopolitically suicidal. Nigeria's last successful military coup took place on 27th August 1985, marking a decisive turning point in the country's political history. In a bloodless palace coup, senior military officers quietly removed Major General Muhammadu Buhari from power, ending his nearly two-year rule. Buhari had come to office in December 1983 with a reputation for discipline and moral rectitude, but his government soon became associated with harsh economic controls, restrictions on civil liberties, and growing discontent within military itself. Many officers felt sidelined, while civilians experienced severe hardship under austerity measures and draconian decrees. In the early hours of August 27, power shifted without gunfire or street battles. General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, then Chief of Army Staff, emerged as the new leader. The coup was swift, calculated, and carefully managed, earning it the description of a palace coup carried out from within the highest ranks of the military establishment. Upon taking power, Babangida promised a more consultative style of leadership, national reconciliation, and a return to democratic rule. His early speeches struck a tone of openness, winning cautious public approval and support from political elites. However, what followed was 8 years of complex military governance, marked by political experimentation, economic restructuring, and shifting alliances. Babangida's regime introduced the Structural Adjustment Program, fundamentally reshaping Nigeria's economy while also initiating a long and controversial transition to civilian rule. That transition ultimately collapsed in 1993 after the annulment of the June 12th presidential election, an act that plunged the nation into crisis and ended Babangida's rule. Since that moment in 1985, Nigeria has not experienced another successful military coup, making it the final chapter in the country's long history of military takeover. It stands as a defining moment, both an end and a beginning, in Nigerians' ongoing struggle between military authority and democratic governance. As rumors of a coup intensify, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has moved decisively to reassert civilian control over Nigeria's military architecture. Against a backdrop of heightened anxiety fueled by coups across West Africa and whispers within political circles, the presidency has taken deliberate steps to signal authority, loyalty, and institutional stability. The reshuffling of senior security personnel, particularly within the military and police, is widely seen as a more than routine administration. It reflects an acute awareness of history. In Nigeria, coups have often preceded by uncertainty, elite rivalry, and fractures within the armed forces. Tinubu's actions appeared aimed at closing those cracks before they widen. By replacing key commanders, redeploying police personnel from elite protection duties to frontline security, and reinforcing the chain of command, the president has sought to tighten control, improve coordination, and reaffirm allegiance to the constitutional order. These moves sent a clear message both to the public and to the security establishment that the era of political ambivalence within the ranks will not longer be tolerated. At the same time, the administration has worked carefully to calm public fears, repeatedly insisting that Nigeria's democracy is not under immediate threat. Officials have framed the changes as proactive governance rather than reactive panic, arguing that stronger institutions, not silence, are the best defense against instability. In a region where military takeovers have become alarming common, Tinubu's response underscores a central lesson of Nigeria's past. Vigilance matters. The shadow of 1985 still looms large, and the current leadership appears determined to ensure that history remains history, not a prelude. Security agencies, including Defense Intelligence Agency (DIA), Nigeria's Financial Intelligence Unit, and the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission (EFCC), reportedly tracked significant financial transactions to accounts linked to former Bayelsa State Governor and ex-minister Timothy Silva. Investigators allege some of these funds were tied to the officers detained over a suspected plot against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In October 2025, soldiers reportedly raided residences in Abuja and Yenagoa connected to Silva and detained his brother during the broader security operation related to the alleged coup plot. Premium Times and other outlets reported Silva's denial of any involvement, with his aides calling the allegations politically motivated. Timothy Silva has denied involvement in any conspiracy or plot against the government. His team emphasized that he was not connected to the alleged plan, framing the accusations as unfounded and politically driven. It is important, however, to note that these links and allegations remain under investigations and have not been proven in court. Silva has not been formally charged as of the latest report. Nigerian Defense Headquarters announced the arrest of the 16 military officers on grounds initially described as indiscipline and breaches of service regulation, but subsequently it linked to an alleged plot to overthrow the government. The officers include a brigadier general, several colonels and lieutenant colonels, majors, captains, a naval lieutenant commander, and an air force squadron leader. After completing an investigation, the defense headquarters confirmed that those officers will be formally arraigned before military judicial panels, court-martial. The charges relate to violations of military discipline and allegations bordering on plotting to overthrow the government. The military has stated that the proceedings will follow the Armed Forces Act and established service regulations, and stressed that the actions are meant to preserve discipline and loyalty within the rank. Nigeria must never return to the dark days of military government. The scars of coups, decrees, and suspended freedoms remain fresh in the nation's memory, and they serve as a warning of what happens when constitutional order collapses. Democracy, despite its imperfections, remains Nigeria's safest and most legitimate path forward. However, defending democracy cannot rely on force and security measures alone. The government must also govern with empathy. Rising hardship, economic pressure, and public frustrations create fertile ground for instability. If citizens feel unheard or abandoned, rumors and unrest will always find oxygen. So, to safeguard the republic, the Tinubu administration must go beyond enforcement and advance policies that genuinely ease the burden on Nigerians. Policies that create jobs, reduce the cost of living, strengthen social safety nets, and restore trust between the state and the people. Stability is not sustained by fear, but by fairness. This is Impact Media. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Thank you for listening. I will see you again in the next video. Bye for now.